allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We would like to welcome all of you to our October meeting, and because we had to change the time of the meeting, this is considered a special meeting, so we can only discuss the items that are on our agenda. Tom, did you want to introduce our visitors?
Sure. Sure, we have representing WSCT, President Martha Shoemaker, representing the administrators, Pat Fedor.
And Craig Merriman's in the audience. He's running for Board of Ed. Thank you for coming tonight. Okay, is there any public comment? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on to our wonderful presentation about our Quest Summer Chinese program.
Sure. You might recall last month I briefly mentioned it in my remarks about how successful the program had been this last summer. We do have a brief presentation tonight from people who were actually involved in the program this summer with us from the high school counselor Yuan Chen, along with some students, Elizabeth Dowd, Megan Sturm, and Leah Scala. So we will hand it off to you.
So thank you for this opportunity that we had a chance to host a total number of 20 Chinese students and teachers in the past summer with the support from the community and the central office and the building administration. We really had a good time. I really cannot think anyone better than our students to share their experience with you. Liz Dowd is our senior. She is one of the student coordinators. Megan Stern is a junior. She also is a student coordinator. Leah is responsible for holding the sports event for us. So I'm going to turn to you.
Okay, so this is a map of China, and we have a sister school in Qingdao, which is right here. And the students that came from China were from Guangzhou, which is here. The theme of the camp was based on Journey to the West, which is a classic Chinese novel, which is similar to the Odyssey in our culture. And it mirrored American students and Chinese students' journey because its theme is exploration and adaptation. This is a daily overview. This is what we did each day. They had housekeeping where they would review the day. They had a writing and reflection section where they would write a writing log. And then they went on different field trips each day. So, the first day, we had an icebreaker where they created alien drawings and they talked about stress management and emotions. And they also took a free test to determine the base online English proficiency. On the second day, we took a trip to Project Oceanology where they caught and examined different sea creatures and they researched the creatures and compared the ones in our community to the ones that are popular from China. On the third day, they visited the courthouse where they spoke with a judge and a lawyer, and they watched multiple cases. Then they did research on how the U.S. court system works and compared it to how China's court system works. And they learned to formulate questions to ask the judge. On the next day, we went to Block Point where we went hiking, and we also talked about different current event topics, such as globalization and urbanization and how they affect our environment. And we compared these topics from the U.S. to China. The next day we went to the Arboretum, where they examined indigenous plants that are native to America and they don't see in China very often. They also played games. We did telephone, and first we did it in English, and then we did it in Chinese. And then they created these metal relief sculptures based on the plants that they found. On the next day, we went to the auditorium where we played different acting games and we did different poses. And some students on stage and some were in the audience drawing sketches of those who were on stage. And with these sketches, they then made metal sculptures of the people and their poses. On the last day, they cooked shepherd's pie. And they went to the store and purchased the ingredients that were on the recipe. And then they learned how to set the table, and they learned like American table manners, which are different than Chinese. And then every day of the week, after the field trip, we always came back and they wrote writing logs, and where they compared like American culture to the Chinese culture and what they did that day. And this, the American students were able to improve their communication because we helped them like form like proper grammar, and we also created like relationships and learned more about Chinese culture. And the Chinese students also during this time came up with different topics to talk to their host families about at home, where they related it back to Journey to the West and what they've been doing each time. Both the Chinese students and the American students gained a lot of experience from this. The Chinese students were able to explore a new place, and we were able to meet new people. We got a lot of cultural exposure. We learned some Chinese, and they were able to perfect their English. We made a lot of international friends. We also learned a lot of leadership skills. And in the future, this will help us because we'll be prepared for diversity if we're able to study abroad. And the Chinese students will be able to be prepared for coming to college in America with a lot of things. So what worked, there was a lot of good collaboration between the Chinese students and American students. On average, there's one American student for every 2 Chinese students, so a lot of work in small groups and like create relationships and connections, and that the writing logs too was helping them each day. And also there was a talent show on the last day where the Megan group, we sang Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in Chinese and then in English, so in front of like all those families and different teachers. And also organization work because we had training sessions before, we had housekeeping, so we had schedules for each day. And we also had a communication tree, which we had all the information of the American students and the Chinese students in case of any emergency. And also there was a commitment because we got there at 7:20 each morning and we didn't leave until 5 p.m., which is longer than the average school day. So students were dedicated. So if we were to do this again next year, we would have a lot more preparation beforehand. For example, we would pre-camp pen pals. So the American students would get a Chinese student and they would email them and talk to them before to establish a relationship before they get here. Also, we would want more host families. This year we only had a couple host families, so there were quite a few Chinese students for each host family. But next year we hope to have more. That there'll be 1 to 2 Chinese students in each host family, and that'll give a larger variety of people this cultural exposure. And we can advertise more for it so that people will be more aware of it. Also, we know have a better idea of their English proficiency level. So next year we can prepare activities and prepare the peer facilitators better.
The last picture is the picture we took in the end of the talent show. So we have all our peer facilitators. About, I would say 20 to 25 students. Okay, so that's why we have a 1 to 2 ratio. And then we also have the host families there. So we took the last in the picture, and then that's most of the kids that they still maintain communication with the kids they visit us. So it was a really, really wonderful experience. Our teachers did really had a great platform. Thank you for the opportunity. We really thank you for host family. We have 3 host family here. I mean 2, I'm sorry. Without their help, that's this program will be really totally different too. So, any questions?
Do any board members have a question? Nothing?
It's more of a comment first. Welcome, Lizzie. I know Lizzie from coming up to the Capitol, and so she's an excellent representative that you have if you have her in your group. Just wanted to say that I think this is such a worthwhile experience, and I will be speaking to it a little bit more later as the Board of Ed goes on when we look at our goals. But I just have one quick small question. You talked about some of the areas that you want to focus on going forward, and you mentioned looking at more at English proficiency. Did you talk at all amongst yourselves at looking at your own Chinese proficiency with some of the programs that we may have online?
I've learned like a few words here and there, but I realize it's like really difficult to make some of the sounds that they make. But I would be interested in learning more.
So when you did your communication, how did that transpire?
It actually went pretty well because like we have so many resources online to help us like improve and figure out what they're trying to say and like translate what we're trying to say.
Great. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
So there must be computer keyboards that have to be characters in Chinese translated. Is that how that works? How does that work?
There's different apps that you can get on your phone, and like on their phone they have an American keyboard and a Chinese keyboard. So you can write it.
So the computer will transliterate or translate the two?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to see.
It was a really good experience in terms of the using that box. In our building was well, and outside they all have all kind of the internet access to it. So they use the phone to look at the phone, and they also both artists there get so good at it. Okay, no phone, then they start using it, and when they say you can use the computer to translate it, they use it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You did a great job. Okay, now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Can we have a motion?
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented. I'll second.
Okay, and then we also need to transfer the request of a $29,000 amount from account 100-10500 private tuition to account 100-02390 the Avery Point students. Is that all right with everybody? Is there any discussion on anything in the consent agenda?
So would that be as amended then?
No, it's written. It's written here, Kathy.
Would you like some input as to why?
Yes.
There was a change in the program of the youngsters on the work study program were in the past were in a number of different locations. They're now all working through Avery Point, and so as a result, we needed to reallocate some of the tuition money to cover minimum wage while they're working. So basically, that's why we were short. We were doing well.
We have two other presentations, so I wish you didn't do that.
Yes, this is the underline in the business.
Basically, that's why we were short with the covering the minimum wage, and we had a slight increase or a slight decrease with the tuition money. So it worked out well.
Thank you. Okay, if there isn't any more discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. I'm reading and/or review of correspondence received.
Just had two items. I received notification from the Connecticut Association of Schools that one of our principals, Christopher Discordia, was selected as a finalist this year for CAS First Year Principal of the Year Award. So congratulations, Chris. And then the only other piece of correspondence that I have is concerning National School Boards Association, inquiring whether or not we wanted to rejoin, and also that the annual conference this year is in Boston, being held from April 9th to 11th. Every so many years it circles back to the Northeast. This year will be in Boston in April.
How much was the cost of it to join them?
The dues for NSBA, because we've been out of NSBA longer than 5 years, we would be considered a new member again, and that is at a discounted rate of $3,300 for a year.
Jody? Yeah. Would it be possible for us to, I know because we had thought this had been eliminated years ago, do a lot of it with the travel, they were always out mostly in the West, but it's in Boston. Could we see what the differential would be if we to join it, how much off we would get if some of us went up to Boston? That could help us with the decision.
Absolutely.
And then we could do a price comparison.
Yep.
Somebody wouldn't mind doing that. We could put it on the November agenda. When do they need to know?
Okay. That's all I have for correspondence.
Okay. Superintendent's report?
Sure. I'd like to thank Clark Lane Middle School and Waterford High School for the wonderful artwork and student work that we have in the room this month. We appreciate our students and staff's hard work. First thing I'd like to have us report out on is an overview of SBAC and scores. Over the last several weeks at a district level, we've been obviously disaggregating that data. Principals have been working on breaking out that data down at a school level and begin working on next steps and plans with their coaches and teaching teams. This truly is baseline data. You cannot necessarily compare this data to the prior CMT test, nor could we compare it to last year's field test. This truly is the first year of a new assessment. I know Craig is going to go into some more detail.
Thank you. So you received the PowerPoint in your packet. So this, as Tom was indicating, this is really provide an annual snapshot, and the point of these statewide formative assessments is really to show growth. And this is the baseline year, which shows where we're going to be growing from. Just to remind everyone, these assessments should not be used as a total measure. Really, they should not substitute or replace the internal assessments that we use, because the classroom formative assessments probably are the best way to really drive instruction. And you've seen this as we've adopted our language arts curriculum, the big shift within language arts is around text complexity, which is why we've had that for a district initiative for several years. Also, a lot of the questions are really grounded, what's the evidence from the text? So instead of just saying, why do you think so, and have a child explain their creative thinking around putting down a laudable reason, it's really a little more evidence-based. And then, really the success is shown how students are really building their own knowledge through text tests, where then they're comparing and they're actually coming up with their own opinion. For mathematics, the big shifts are fewer topics. Really, there's and we're continuing to look at this. The more we are using our new curriculum, I think you see initially some good signs in third grade, and I would anticipate that would show moving along each year as we build upon it. But there's a coherence of topics along the grade level, and the biggest thing statewide is that the rigor expected at an early age is just increased dramatically, and that's why, as Tom indicated, we can't really compare statewide assessments in the past to this multi-state assessment. So the SBAC itself is computer delivery, computer adaptive. So I think from a statewide system, they're still enhancing that feature. I I would anticipate the adaptivity to be better in the future. So on a computer delivery system, kids have to experience doing work on the computer a little bit more. And then from a performance-based task, that's really, again, a couple pieces of evidence, and then they have to do something, and that type of manipulating multiple sources of information is something which our kids are doing okay on, but that's the focus of the teaching. And then 11th grade, we do have the baseline SBAC scores, which will be the highest SBAC scores that every high school, including Waterford, will have gotten. Since this year we're moving away from the SBAC to the SAT. So, for the scoring, there are 4 score bands. Really, in our comparisons, we're looking at the students who were obtaining a 3 or a 4, because we want to see the results based upon the students that have met success in that area. A sample student report looks a little thick. The scale scores are 4-digit numbers, so there's inherent information and guide to understand the student report. But basically, every student report has not only what the student score is, but what the school average, and if there's multiple schools, like in our elementary, what the district average would be. So parents can kind of see how their child is doing with respect to the rest of the school. Now, as we unpack this first slide, with lots of colors and bar charts, really is to look at just language arts from grade 3 through 11, with the first bar in each being how Waterford did, the next bar with our DIRG. As you recall, with DIRG D, there are 24 towns in DIRG D, and again, as I used DIRG comparisons before, when DIRG was set up in 2006, Waterford was like 19th of 24. So we should be, if we expect us to do nothing different, to be in that lower middle band. And we've always hoped to be at least in the top third band. So kind of out-achieving, if you will, our normal spot in life. And then the last bar is where the state is. And so what does this graph tell you? It says, well, we look at grade 3, which is the second group. Our grade 3 scores are significantly higher than the DIRG in the state. And so that could be because we've implemented the Common Core state standards in both math and language arts several years ago. And so our grade 3 students have had really that as their instruction all the way through. And because of that, we're doing well. You'll also see that in 7th, 8th, and 11th, they're doing well too, and you'll see this recursive theme where 4th, 5th, and 6th, we're really looking at why is that a depressed profile, and how can we sort of enhance that. But with the language arts at least, we're, if you will, above the DIRG, so better than half, so we're doing better than expected. We're below the DIRG, rather, 4th, 5th, and 6th, so above the state. So, and in the math profile, again, grade 3, which is the second group of bars, we're doing very well compared to the DIRG in the state, and that's the bright shining spot on this slide, with again, 7th, 8th, and 11th showing we're better than the state but below the DIRG average. And again, the 4th, 5th, and 6th, where in math we're below the state and the DIRG. And so that's concerning. And so, we'll be talking about what we're doing to kind of address that. Then looking at some of the subgroups, as you recall, the subgroups really are special ed, English language learners and free and reduced lunch. And that is boiled together as a high needs group. We have some specific information on how special ed and how ELL did. We don't have specific information on how free and reduced lunch students do, but we do have kind of a composite high needs. So what does this show us? It shows us that we're kind of in the mix. We're a little bit below the GERB, but we're well above the state. We're probably kind of where we should be with respect to the DRG standard.
Excuse me, Craig.
Absolutely.
Are you going to be sharing with us that data on those two groups that you have that's not included in our package?
I certainly can. I can talk about them now, or I could have Tom sort of send out those slides and an update.
Yeah, maybe send them up so that we can evaluate them beforehand. Not do it on the
Absolutely,
fly.
and then talk.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now that we've kind of looked at the macro, if you will, we want to drill down into first English language arts, and English language arts has really 4 areas, as you can see on the left-hand column. And with each of those areas, I'm going to present next slides that kind of show that area for each grade level on the kids that are in that advanced, approaching, or below level. And then after that, I'm going to drill down into the math for the 3 areas that really comprise math. So with language arts, we're going to start with reading first. So again, if we look at the first bar graph on here, the 3rd grade profile is probably how we would want all the grade levels to be. And again, one inference or conclusion that could be drawn is that really we've been working on this improved language arts 3 or 4 years, and so 3rd graders who are taking this assessment, that's the instruction that they've known. And so as we are retooling, we would expect to see next year, 3rd grade having a similar profile, 4th grade also having that profile, and really over time, I would imagine that we're fixing the collective profile here. I will say, when we're talking about the ability to read, we would like the below standard ideally to be 0, but realistically to be a little less than 10%. So you see here that in 4th, 5th, and 6th, we do have some remediation as we are retooling our instruction. And for that, I think the board made some wise decisions to not only have a support teacher and a para for both language arts and, as you see later, for math, which is help on this initiative. But again, that's just because as we've raised the standards, some students really need that backfilling of instruction. The next area, listening, the real here, the takeaways would be, from a who is below standard, that profile looks pretty good. 4th grade may be a touch high. But what's discouraging in this profile is I would have anticipated more students to be above standard, because when we're talking about the listening component, we're really talking about, are they hearing something and can they recall it when answered a question? And so that sort of attention to detail is something that I think we'll have to look at more and give kids some more opportunities to really be held accountable for. I'm going to just say this once. What did I say? I think often we may be giving kids multiple opportunities to listen, and they're not tuning in at the first. So I would imagine, as we now see this data, that teachers would be assigning some lessons to hold that, and I would hope to see a very different profile with, if you will, a lot more green in each of these.
Are they listening to instructions or a story from the computer, or
They
not, not a real teacher?
Not a real teacher, so they're listening to items using headphones, so they're not being distracted by others. But they are listening to, say, a reading passage, then they're maybe watching a small video clip, and then they're being asked questions. So on that level, some of the questions is, what did you hear from the story? Other questions might be, what did you hear from the video? And there might be some synthesis questions about, from now understanding the story in the video, how are they similar? What would the main idea be of the two? And things of that nature.
Maybe having to look at the video is distracting from listening.
It may. So we're looking at things just like that here.
I think a key is exposing kids to that as much as we can. It's not a common thing that students have been asked to do in the past.
Or Common Core.
Used to, being in a classroom where if they've missed it, the teacher repeats it, or there's multiple opportunities to hear it. So it really is, in many ways, a new skill to hear something once and answer questions on it.
We look at the writing profile here. Again, fifth grade might be a little bit of an anomaly, but if we look at the below standard, all the other grades are pretty good. If we look at the amount of students, percent students above standard, it's also pretty good. So really, I think we've always had a very effective writing program. This really validates that. It's not to say that, fifth and sixth, or fourth, fifth and sixth, again, could use a bit of enhancement, but some of that is just, as I said, I think over time. With the research and inquiry skills, generally these are more higher order questions, so this is really where, as we've talked in the past about what's the DOK level or the depth of knowledge, these are level 2 or 3, where kids are asked to, as I said earlier, look at a couple different things and then draw some conclusions. And here, I think again, our kids are showing that they're able to do this higher level thinking, and with that fourth, fifth, and sixth, I think over time it will improve. So now there are 3 areas for math. And again, I just want to sort of point you to the grade 3 one when it comes to concepts and procedures, and you get to see, a rather high amount of students who are at or above standard, and then that dwindles a little bit in 4th, 5th, and 6th, and then regrows. So you're seeing sort of similar profiles in not only language arts, but math. And our math Common Core was revised in 2012, which may be why 3rd grade is doing a little bit better, because they've had no backfilling to do, where once you change the math program, you might have to backfill other grades that have had a different level of instruction and scope and treatment. So, I think the next 2 graphs show a similar profile. So what does this tell us? It's interesting at a state level meeting where Deputy Commissioner Ellen Cohn was presenting. One of the state takeaways were that there was no district in the state where mathematics performance exceeded English language arts. So when we're looking at our profile of English language arts, we're saying, okay, well, we've really focused on language arts and we're seeing some good scores, but across the state, English language arts outperforms math in all areas. And so then, you look at sort of our depressed, relatively speaking, depressed scores in math, and well, that's kind of also across the state. So I think as a state, we need to if you will, ramp up the expectations, rigor, and having kids being able to really think about math, not just follow the recipe for math, if you will, by knowing the procedures. If you look at our participation rate, we were in the 98th to 99th percentiles, so we need to be above the 95th when looking at state summative assessment. And I already talked about listening. So then, what might we do different? So the testing window is from March until late May. We decided to have the elementary test done before April break. What we are thinking is that some of the questions on this assessment, we took the test a little too early, and that was sort of taught after the assessment. So we're thinking of maybe moving our elementary testing window into after April break, rather than having you completed before, so a little later on in the year. Continued professional learning in mathematics. So, I have and I wrote about this in one of the Friday updates, that we're using some of those pre-learn coaching days to have a consultant work with our math coaches and to really unpack the curriculum set right, our assessment set right. When we talk about our assessments, are we doing the majority of questions on that skill or lower level computation, or on that application, and do we have a good balance? And so they'll be looking at that. The coaches will be getting some professional development, and then they'll be better able to work with the classroom teachers to really help. What are those missing pieces to get all of our students to really understand this new rigorous curriculum?
I have a question on that. The coaches, they're in-district coaches. We're not bringing people in. Is that correct?
So we have math coaches in each of the buildings, which are Waterford Public School teachers. We have literacy coaches in all the buildings, and Waterford Public School teachers. I have the literacy coaches working with an external consultant, sort of infusing that knowledge in, and then our coaches are working with our teachers. Same with math. And then for the Readers Workshop, we're bringing in a Teachers College consultant to really work with all the teachers as well during district professional development days and release days within the school. So it's a blend, but I guess I couldn't quickly answer this yes or no.
I guess what I'm thinking is a lot of our professional development is concerned with generally. It seems to me we need to make some improvements, and certainly professional development is part of that. But wouldn't it make sense to go outside the district more than we have been in terms of our professional development? We need to retool. I mean, we're not doing the job we want to do. And we have, I think, wonderful teachers, talented, dedicated. We couldn't ask more of them. But we've got to give them more tools. And maybe we should consider more outside professional development rather than the internal things that we've been doing.
Absolutely. So point well taken, and I wholeheartedly agree that we want to give the teachers the tools necessary to be highly effective.
I agree with Greg, and when I read this right away, the 4, 5, and 6, I saw it in my mind. I kind of said to myself, geez, we should just go right after that and get some help, get some more coaches, and start addressing it right away rather than just let it work over time. And then maybe fine-tune it as we go, but at least get some help in there right away. And because, me and Greg have always been on the same page with that. Extra help is key. You identify those kids right away and we can fix it early rather than waiting.
Thank you. With respect to the language arts, we are really trying to provide not only graphic books for reading, but also some online opportunities to read, things like Novella, which is nonfiction text that can be brought down to different lexile levels as one sort of source of information, and then the classroom book in the classroom can be that second, again, so that students can draw some conclusions from multiple text sets. That's one of the focus. And as I said earlier, more focus teaching and listening. The next steps, as I said, as Tom said earlier, administrators have really reviewed this. Teachers have integrated ways to focus with respect to their evaluation goals under the subjects that they teach. Those goals may be trying to, as a, and again, I put some acronyms up there so to be explicit. When we talk about SLO, we're not saying math is slow. What we're saying is that that's a student learning objective, which is a broad goal. And then when we talk about the acronym IEGD, that's the indicators for growth and development. And so we might have an IEGD that's based upon the state summary assessment, and another IEGD that's based upon our own internal formative assessment to measure that student learning objective. And what we're saying is for the IEGDs that would look at SFACs, we're trying to show growth, and so where kids can move. Working with the coaches, and the points that both Greg and Dave articulated tonight are well received. And
before you move back to that, we go back to that second point. And I had a brief discussion with Tom about this. I understand that literacy and math teaching goes on, obviously, at the elementary level by the same teacher. But I wouldn't want to see a math teacher's SLO include literacy objects at the secondary level. We want their attention focused on that. And we have our English language arts teachers working on that. And so I question whether or not, instead of the word and, it might be or. Because, again, we wouldn't want a math teacher with an SLO for English, or an English teacher with an SLO for math.
So you're right for district next steps. The second bullet, I would say, is much more of an elementary-driven model where the same practitioner teacher teaches all subject areas. But for secondary, you're right, it could be the or, depending on the subject area. We generally have social studies people who focus on writing as their craft, where language arts people would focus on the reading.
I think there's overlap with the social sciences, but not the other way around.
Sure. I'm just trying to sort of unpack that. And then for math and science, I think sometimes science can help out math because they're generally there. And I think when it comes now, what would be universal would be in the area of vocabulary. Because I think there's vocabulary in math, there's vocabulary in science, there's vocabulary in social studies, that each content area really has a piece of language arts to a certain degree.
I'm not so sure. I think that some scientific terms and some math terms involve concepts that I'm not sure your social science teachers are schooled in. I don't know how the board feels.
But for the teachers that certainly teach both areas, then generally speaking, in elementary, for classroom teachers or special ed resource, they generally have one goal in numeracy and one goal in literacy. When it comes to a unified arts teacher, like art music and TV, They would have really one of the district goals. In the past, that has been kind of like a flow street of the analyzing part at each level, that skill, and then one truly in the context. And that stands for a secondary use. So it's like with the building initiative and then a department structure for goals. So that's generally how it goes. We obviously look to see which schools in our GERD are doing higher than expected and say, let's get there, and try to replicate that. We would be, looking at, obviously, working with our curriculum leaders, our department heads, and coaches, where we can see instructional improvements, and sort of continue with some of the more elementary last through the program.
Great. On the first one there,
Yes.
reaching out. When I was looking at that, what I started thinking about, talking about professional development for teachers. And I know that the administration central office has its own special development. Can you tell us about that? Is that going to be are you going to rethink your approach to that? To somehow get more exposure to how different districts do it? Is that even a factor? What are your thoughts on that?
So when you said administration has...
I assume that the four main central office administrators have professional development too. Where you're going to get exposure to how other districts are handling the same problem. Do we need to do more of that? Would that be helpful? I mean, we're going to be looking at our budget shortly. That's something we should be budgeting more funds for so that we can benefit more from other thinking that is out there.
Well, so I guess the quick answer would be yes, we want to focus on that. I'm not sure the impact on funding when we're talking about kind of learning our lessons from our colleagues. I do think everyone across the city, including all the administrators in this room, are really learning how to squeeze as much information out of the results as we have to sort of say how can we improve in the future. And we're continuing that sort of learning. It's not to say that we are experts in this deep dive analysis of this first assessment. So we are looking at other districts who may be ahead of us and to say, well, okay, what's your curriculum look like? What's your assessment? What's the instruction look like? And listening carefully, are there differences that they're doing than we are? And then we have to say, if we bring those differences in, do we expect the same type of results? And so that would be kind of that level of professional development. We are learning, at the state level, how to unpack things, and we're sharing with our administrators when we learn something, and our administrators are hearing from their administrator colleagues, and also, sending out emails to really help on it.
And I think as we move toward the regional calendar next year, and there's more regional PD in the years to come, I think we're only going to benefit from this with some facilitated conversations. There is some regional PD going on that our teachers take part in, but I think as that becomes more solidified and more formal in the years to come, we're going to see more cross-district sharing around what are you doing, how are you assessing, what instrument are you using. So I'm hopeful.
And Jody, if I may just jump in for a minute with me. First of all, I'd like to point out and appreciate, Craig, in your first remark, that this is only one measurement, one piece of really recognizing student achievement, and we have to give the district a lot of credit, because what's more important in my mind isn't so much, as long as we're making progress and we're moving forward with individual growth and student growth, and this is a first snapshot. I think we fared well. The ELA, we look like we've done very well. The math, we see some issues where we're going to move forward, but I would hate to see us just all of a sudden get into a kind of a mindset where we're teaching only to the test. I mean, what we've heard over and over again is that all this emphasis on testing has taken away a lot from the creativity and innovation that classroom teachers have had. So I can tell you on the state level, there is still dialogue going on as to the worth of the SBAC test. We need to look at it, look at the PMT testing. There's still dialogue out there about the value. I think it's good that we have the data. We're looking, we're going to focus in, and I'd like to hear back, as you put out in the next step, hear back from our curriculum leaders, from our teachers, see where they see, but not to be overly concerned about, gee, we're here, we need to be up in this top of the band, we have to look and focus in, find out. Good to have the knowledge, look at the strands, but I would just like to say, from at least from my perspective as a board member, that I'm more interested to see that we continuously make progress and that we're not overly concerned right now is where we are. I think we've done well.
And also I think we have to remember we've had so many new programs within the last couple of years for the teachers to have to implement. And I know we've been giving them, we're trying to give them as much help as we can, but I think it's been such a large undertaking, in math and language arts and, science and now social studies. I mean, if you look at the back, the last page, I mean, we have new curriculum almost for everything. And, our teachers have to learn, learn how to adapt to all that. So, I mean, I wasn't pleased with the test results, but I remember when and I was a little concerned, but after you, explained a few of these things, I'm not as concerned now, but, I don't know, like Kathleen said, it's just a test, it's one test, and I think our students excel so well in so many other areas, doing so many other different things that this shouldn't be the be-all and end-all of how we judge our kids.
I mean, if you take the longer view, we've had 4 different generations of PMT before, and generally speaking, every 5 years, the state board put a new, like this is now PMT 2, PMT 3, and you would see the scores kind of go up, and then a new test, and then go up, and so this is kind of a new rigorous baseline for all of us. I think once we give all of our educators, administrator educators, teacher educators, time to really understand this, then we kind of know how to focus our instruction so that we're getting kids over whatever bars we just set. But to your point, Cody, it does take some time. So say, we've changed and the next year was perfect, probably isn't a realistic expectation. We change and we might need 3 years to kind of really get there and then show some great results.
And not only curriculum has changed, teaching styles changed too.
Teachers are asked to do different things and teach differently. Sure.
I just have a question. Do all the other states take the exact same tests we take?
You may recall when we adopted the Common Core that certain states went to the SBAC assessment, certain states went to the PARCC assessment. So in the United States, I believe every state takes some assessment.
Yes. I think there were 14 states that went to PARCC.
Right. And the majority are with SBAC. But
then they're not being, all the students in the United States aren't being judged evenly then, because they're different types of tests too, right?
Well, yes, to a certain degree. So you're correct. And what the state did in some of their analysis for SBAC is try to compare it to the NAEP testing, which is how the United States students compared to students from other countries. And what they found is there was a high correlation between the SBAC assessment and the NAEP. The state was more pleased on how the state fared in aggregate with respect to language arts because we exceeded the NAEP expectation. And conversely, the state was a little displeased about the mathematics performance because it actually was underperformed what we expected from the NAEP results. So that profile is just to monitor it as the whole state.
if I may.
Kevin.
When I look at these, and I'm looking at the test results, and I think what's important is we realize that it's not a competition. You know, we're not in a competition with the rest of our DRG. We're not in competition with the rest of the state. But it's a tool. The data we get here is a tool that we're using to find a way to reach to our students to make them better. And I think sometimes we look at these test results and we say, well, gee, we could have done better than, X, Y, and Z. And I think it's important that we realize that the only competition is for ourselves to achieve better, not and to make our students better. It's not a competition against Colchester or East Lyme or whatever in the DRG. So.
To that point, Kevin, that's why I just was presenting this tonight as a PowerPoint, not really a formal report, because really I want the second, the third year of data to then have some comparability. 2 points you can show that, okay, is an anomaly. 3 points you kind of indicate the trend. So this is the baseline dot. Let's see next year where the dot goes and the year after. But to that end, I think it is worth discussing, and then we can kind of see where we go from next year. And having the feedback from our teachers and instructional leaders about what changes we should do.
As Greg said too, if we need to put more money in the budget under different areas, we need before we put our budget together, we'll have to look at that now.
Certainly appreciate the thanks for his willingness to look at that. So again, summary for the SBAC, we stress the baseline, new content standards. So we'll look to see how we're going to be using this information and then make sure that our students are improving. Shifting slightly, we still have CNC and CAP science information. The science assessment will never be part of the SBAC assessment, but Connecticut still assesses that. And so just to briefly show you the profile, we're here, which is to say that we're doing much better than the state and faring a little bit better than the DERS. And this is 5th grade, and I'll just show you 8th. And then 10th. Similar profile. And, we have 6 through 12 adopted science curriculum. Why we've moved ahead with secondary and not elementary curriculum when it came to social studies and science is really around what Jody was saying earlier. Elementary teachers have to teach it all, and so we had to kind of slow the pace of change for the elementary, where secondary teachers really are teaching that one curriculum, and so they can they'll have a curricular change every 6 years. So we have a 5th through 12 science curriculum that's in place. We talked in the spring about how we're doing a 3-year phase-in to make sure that that's 6th, 7th, and 8th, and that 9th, 10th, 11th, and then finally 12th grade will look. We will get to science, but really if you look in the bottom slide, the current elementary initiatives really are around feeling very comfortable with Reader's Workshop. So this is the second year we're just going to really focus on that. And next year, we'll focus on the Writer's Workshop part. We're using some of the Learn coaching days to have the Director of Professional Development, Eric Learn, work with our elementary teachers on social studies. Why I think that would fit in is because after the second year of Reader's Workshop, we're really going to be adding a nonfiction book to support social studies, and then we'll be showing how they learn social studies through their writing. So nesting social studies and writing could work, and then we're looking really out till the 2017-18 before we're really going to look at changing elementary science, because we really have to piece out how we can do curriculum movement. So, are there any other questions?
Does anybody have any more questions? Okay. Thank you, Craig.
Just a quick comment to wrap up. I think one of the unknowns in regards to SBAC, where we should see improvement, is kids' ability to think and use a computer at the same time. Our kids are very adept at using a computer, but there's a different thought process when you're asked to maybe read something, translate it in your mind, and get it on the computer. So I know our teachers and I know our tech specialists are working on that skill, because it is a different skill to be able to think while using a computer. And I know that that's an unknown in all of this, how much the technology impacts students' ability to perform on that test. So as we continue to move through this, technology and its use will play an important part. Thank you, Craig.
Did they give you any information on why they changed from more of a written style test to doing everything on the computer?
I think implementing a national test like this and the vendors that came forward, that the scoring and whatnot.
It allows for
adaptive
part. So instead of having to ask 20 questions and seeing who has it, if you got that question correctly, then we'll move to a different question. I think that will be better in future years. I'm not sure if it was as adaptable as we expected this first year. And then it should be better in future years, but we're also expecting to see the results in a little more of a timely fashion than slightly cheaper when you have to scan it and get the results.
Thank you.
I got a number of quick hitters here as we move through. Just an update on budget planning as we begin planning for the 16-17 budget. We've pushed out a budget preparation manual to our administrators. You have in front of you a tentative budget timeline with some dates. As we lock those in, we'll let you know, but a tentative budget timeline is in front of you. The town dates are locked in. They have sent those out to us. The board dates and how we deal with the budget will continue to firm up. We want to, as we enter budget season, bring you up to speed on one thing. Several of us, board members, and Craig and myself, attended a Friendship School governing board meeting several weeks ago into September. A good part of that meeting was spent discussing the financial status of the Friendship School, the impact of state funding for the Friendship School, and how that might impact London and Waterford. We're definitely going to see a reduction in state funding for the Magnet School, specifically the Friendship School. State funding over the last 3 years has been able to subsidize about $250,000 of tuition that the board would have had to pay. That $250,000 a year is not going to continue to be funded moving forward. So that is obviously going to impact our budget. Even with that state funding, the school has been operating at a deficit. So we're going to see an impact there. So we have the reduction in the state funding, the school's impact operating at a deficit. So there's going to be a significant budgetary impact. It's still early. We don't have all the specifics, but it could be upwards of 0.75%. So we're talking about a substantial amount of money as we move forward. Craig, Rob Gorley, and myself will be attending a meeting at LEARN second week of November with New London and with the executive director of LEARN to hear more specifics about the budget moving forward for the Friendship School. But I did want to bring that to your attention as we head into budget season. The other thing that I wanted to let you know is that we're currently working on a capital plan. It will be a 5-year plan, a rolling 5-year plan. So as we present submit a 5-year capital plan to the town. We'll be bringing a draft to you on November 17th, and certainly looking for your input as we submit that to the town. I know in prior years the board has convened a finance subcommittee. That's something that we should consider acting on at the November board meeting as we head into budget season. Any questions about budget considerations at this point? Okay. Craig mentioned, I just had an update from Connecticut State Department of Education on a couple items. Craig mentioned the SAT. That will begin this spring. That will be administered during the school day. So that will be a slight change. The other update from the Connecticut State Department of Education, they've been granted a waiver by the federal government not to categorize schools this year into 1 of 5 rating categories, so that's been pushed off at least another year. Part of the state's accountability system that was supposed to start this year is that schools would be ranked, or districts would be ranked in 1 of 5 categories. That has been pushed off. Just an update, as you'll recall, in the last negotiated contract with the teachers, part of that was a wellness component. There was a committee that was convened last spring to pick a vendor that would administer that wellness program. We have selected a vendor, CHC, and we anticipate rolling out that biometric program in late January to early March time frame. So I know that was of interest to some of you. Some great news was several of us attended the Martin Luther King Jr. Scholarship Dinner last Thursday. It was a great night, and even better was one of our students from Waterford High School, Aversa Wade, was the recipient of a $20,000 scholarship. There were 6 given out in the region, and we're very proud of this fine young lady. Andre, I don't know if you had any comments.
Just that she's a wonderful representative of the school, and a little surprise to all of us when we got there, she was the recipient selected to sing the national anthem.
That is true.
She did a great job with that as well.
That is true. Well, last Saturday, 17 teachers hopped on a bus and went down to Teachers College in New York for some workshops on Readers and Writers Workshop. This was voluntary. I think it's fantastic that we had 17 teachers willing to give up a Saturday to go down there. We collaborated with Guilford, Madison, and Learn to split a bus. It's great that we were able to share some regional resources there. And I know, Craig, you attended as well, and if you had a couple comments.
Yeah, so see by the full box, and the next page we basically asked teachers things they liked about Teachers College, called the Saturday Reunion. They do it twice a year. We started attending last year. Last October, we had 10 teachers that, and we put them on 2 of our Waterford bands and did, and that has now grown to 20 teachers in the spring and 17 teachers now. And then things they wished for, and in the back, which is the most impressive, learning that I will apply in my instruction. So based upon just this Saturday, but it's a powerful day. There are opportunities for 6 different sessions, which means that if you go to all 6, you won't have lunch. You can just go non-stop. But you're hearing from authors, you're hearing from college professors, you're hearing from really some key people, and to the point made earlier, that are outside Waterford and maybe how to really enhance our instruction. You can see all the great takeaways. And then if you're interested in seeing the actual program of course offerings, you can see the wide array, and you can also, if you didn't know who Mo Williams was because you don't have a grandchild that's reading the Pinky and Mo books, you can kind of read about the authors that were there. Okay?
It's a great day. We appreciate our teachers doing that. Just two other quick updates. The retro commissioning project that you all approved last month has started. Jay and some other staff met with them last Wednesday at Clark Lane and toured the school and handed over a bunch of paper, and they're going to work, and we hope to hear back from them in the near future. We'll keep you updated on that. Craig has provided a tentative policy timeline in front of you of some of the things that we'll need to tackle this year. I don't know if you want to expound upon that.
My initial draft for clustering them, again, is to try to get the right administrator at the different meetings that most germane around these policies, but consider this a draft, and so if there's something missing on this calendar that the board wants to have reviewed, please let me know. Jody will be working with Tom on when the appropriate meeting times would be. I'm anticipating only the need for 4 meetings, so that shows that the legislature really kept to their promise about not dumping too many new initiatives with us. So this seems like a very sizable but decent amount of work that we can accomplish.
That concludes the superintendent's report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're on to committee reports. Chair?
Very quickly, our last LEARN board meeting took place on October 8th, and we mostly used the meeting time to serve as a focus group for the Commissioner of Education, who has been trying to collect thoughts from the community and board members to help give input, I guess, into their next comprehensive plan. So that's what we did.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports?
Yeah, just real quick on CAVE. Most of the pushes to remind everybody that CAVE conference is November 20th and 21st in Mystic. And also they have announced, although they haven't given times, there will be in December a workshop for new board members and combined with a leadership program, and that'll be held at the Sheridan in Rocky Hill. When I get the times, I'll pass it on, but right now they haven't given us any time.
Thank you. I have 2 reports. The school building committee met on Tuesday, and the high school the project's winding down. Jay, did you want to just explain the HVAC, please? The HVAC?
Oh, the pump?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lost 3 pumps on there's small circulator pumps on their reverse chillers. We got these 3 new pumps in, they've been installed, and startup on those will commence tomorrow. We're in good shape there on this. The HVAC is about 2/3 replaced, and they should be done probably by Wednesday of next week.
Oh, that's good.
So they're very much ahead of schedule.
Okay, and the canopy lighting is being installed. The landscaping is in process right now. That's going to be done. So before we know it, the whole project will be done. And as of now, we still have $752,029.30 in unutilized authorization. So, we're still under budget. And we've returned money, just so everybody knows, too, and if it's okay with you, I'd like Joyce to make a copy of this to all board members to see. We've come in under budget on every single project. That should get in the news. Okay, we had a Youth Service Bureau meeting yesterday, and Danny gave me some flyers to hand out to everybody about the holiday, how they do their adopt a family or adopt a student. And this year, they're going to be doing something a little bit differently. They're going to also adopt senior citizens, because we have lots of senior citizens in town that their holidays are kind of bleak and they don't have family around, and they really can't afford much. So they're going to start taking in names of our seniors that might need help around the holidays. And Danny said this year they've already received requests about a lot of families in town need help around the holidays this year. I just want to thank Pat and Chris Discordia for their good sportsmanship at the Harvest Fair. They were, I think everybody had a great time. You were really good sports. those of you that don't know, they were the face in a pie throwing contest, and some of the children really, a lot of the younger children really enjoyed it too. So. Thank you for doing that. And I think the Harvest Fair was really a success. Next year they're just thinking about maybe having it a little bit earlier because it was really cold that day, especially if you're getting pies on it. You're right. Okay, let's see. Also last night, just so we're all aware of, the Waterford Youth Sports Council, they're going to start sponsoring the Positive Coaching Alliance. And we had our first meeting last night, and we're planning another meeting in January and another one in March. So we're hoping that we can get all of the youth-sponsored sports on the same page on how coaching really should be done. And we're also going to, if any of the high school coaches would like to come, they're invited to our meeting in January. And I was going to talk to Dave Sousa about that to see if he might be interested. I have this information right here. And let's see. Oh, and we spoke about the Gene Ryan was there yesterday, and he spoke about your ECC program. And can Allison speak a little bit about that and how that happened? Because you spoke about it at our last meeting.
Just quickly, I'll give an update about what the ECC is working on. So, as I said about last time, we were trying to collaborate and compete a little bit on things that are not athletic. Maybe like a debate competition or a joint art expo. But the first thing that we've done is each school has submitted students in the form of a letter to Sanger Veterans, and Kelly Barnes from high school put it together. It looks like a ransom note, but it says, thanks to our veterans from each of the different schools, ECC student organized. And then we're also doing a kindness video competition. And that's coming up.
That sounds great. We have some students that are on our Youth Service Bureau board, and they're involved with that.
Okay.
So that should be really good. And just so everybody knows, too, our police department, I thought this was a brilliant idea. Anybody that buys or wants to buy anything from someone on Craigslist, they can go and make arrangements to meet right at the police station. So you don't have to, because a lot of bad things have been happening to people that have been trying to buy things off of Craigslist, and sometimes the people on it aren't really honest. So the chief has set up a program where you can go make arrangements to meet the person at the police station. So everybody should feel safe. And I think that's it. Kathy, do you have any reports from Hartford?
I will be giving legislative reports as we go forward. I'm kind of a little synopsis of all the education bills that came out. But I did, if I could have this point of privilege to just let everyone know that there will be a mental health forum, and we've talked about that, so everybody should be around that day for the ECC project. We would be meeting at 5:30 prior to that, and the entire district, it's a district-wide conversation about mental health delivery of services, and it will include our superintendent, youth service bureau, special service director, the courts, some of the agencies that provide mental health services, and it's really just the beginning forum to try to talk and look and search and see if we can find some of the gaps in the services district-wide first, so that I can bring that information back. But we tried to be sensitive so that we coordinated our time frame with each other. I hope that works out for everyone. And I'll look forward and invite everyone to attend. It'll be November the 12th at 5:30 here at the town hall, and then we can all go across the street. So hopefully that will work out well. Thank you, Jody.
Thank you. Can you please talk to the governor about the fact that at the Friendship School they promised a certain amount of money, and then it was cut to 80%, and then the final cut was 60% of what he had promised. And he's always saying how important early childhood education is, and to cut a budget that drastically, that's inexcusable.
Thank you, Jody.
So if you could do something about it, that would be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, now we're on to new business. Discussion and possible action regarding a new 8th grade unified arts course offerings, and that was enclosed in our packet. Hey, Jim.
Just to fact is going to be presenting. In your packet, you've got several brief, albeit curriculum, but these are electives. So we spoke about this in the spring. It's an opportunity for middle school students to take electives. It's an opportunity to have them exposed to areas for which they can go deeper into when they get to high school. And it's also a way for us to show, in addition, what the experience is going to be for middle schools having a personal finance experience. So after the presentation, we'll be looking to approve the curriculum that's presented.
So we set out last year to really think about a few goals for this class. One was to create more opportunities for learning for students. One was to de-emphasize a bit study halls because we felt that there were other opportunities given the chance students would elect to choose much better laws and choose to learn in engaging ways. We wanted to have little to no impact on the budget, especially in this pilot year. We wanted to have these new electives be relevant to careers, very relevant to Waterford High School programs, super engaging. And so what we did was we really surveyed people, we talked to some of our UA teachers, and we came up with three of these are brand new electives, and one is a bit of a change in a course. So the first is 3D design and creation. And so any 8th grader can elect or choose to take one of these electives, and with the exception of this one, and form fit or not take study hall. And we had 9 students who made that choice on 2025. So that told us, first of all, that kids can be better time managers if they have something really enticing and interesting to do and do what they want to learn. So we were very happy that 90 students chose to take these electives. So the first is 3D designs. I'm not going to show you each slide of the curriculum. Really have that in front of you. But a 3D design and creation course is really about students using a CAD or computer design program to create a project, to learn how that works, and to feed that project into a 3D printer. So we purchased a 3D printer. Mr. Armitage went to a number of conferences last year, had a lot of colleagues, and we wrote a curriculum that had to do this. The students are really enjoying it and creating things on our 3D printer in our tech ed room. Really exciting to go in there and see students doing it. All of these classes, the first three anyway, are under 12 students, and the teachers are teaching them similar to how maybe an undergrad teachers at the high school teaching like a French 5 or a high level Latin. They are not doing the duty of teaching a very small group of kids, and that's sort of how we did this within our present budget and personnel situation. So they do this Tinkercad, they do a lot of playing around, they kind of build their projects. And the printer is the one little issue that we've noticed, and that we may have that in our budget, but it takes a long time to print projects, and it's a little thing that's holding us back. We're working through that.
And when you say print projects, you're really talking about a three-dimensional creation.
So a student may work 10 days on a project, and then they'll go to print it, and it takes 4 to 6 hours to print their project. So they multiply that out of a lot of kids taking a while and working overtime. So we needed to do the course to figure out this issue. So we will figure out that issue and get through it. It's just a little picture of the kids working, some of the types of projects you can create, and this is our actual printer with a little tiny project that's a length of a chain. But there's some pretty interesting things that the kids have made. These are really tiny, they're much smaller than they look on the slide. They're really, really tiny. Once you start to get to the bigger projects, you need a bigger printer a lot more time. But in any case, they can create on their, this is a Tinkerbot CAD screen, and they're actually creating this child made a ring, and there's all sorts of things that they're creating, and then they print them out. It's pretty exciting. Then the next elective is advanced art. So what we did was we shifted, and I think last year you were presented with the art curriculum. We shifted our art from 8-7 down to 7-6 as our general course that all students take for the elective. For a unified art. And 8th grade is an elective, and about 12 students is an elective, where students take advanced art. And what's nice is it really feeds into an interest that they have, and it starts to get them to think about electives at the high school level. So We have 12 wonderful students taking this advanced art class. When you walk into the class, it really feels like a next grade class. Dr. Gilberto is teaching it at a very high level. They're doing some multiple perspective drawings, some really high-end multimedia work, and it's very interesting. Ceramic sculpture, but like a really higher level than generally is taken in 6th and 7th grade. So it's really a pleasure. This is the type of things that they're doing in the class. The final project is a collaborative work that we can hopefully display in the school. And it's a really nice way for kids with that interest to take that interest, refine it, have a much smaller class, really personalized attention, and feed that range to what they might choose to do in high school. You go in there and there's kind of a step time. The next one is Unified Arts, PE. So it's a class that students who are already taking PE, general ed students, can elect to take their PE with special education students. So they take it all together, and they kind of are coaches, friends, leaders, buddies to the students with their special needs. And it's pretty amazing to watch it. It's sort of the academic extension of the Unified Sports program in the school. So I'll show you some pictures of that. Obviously, it develops all these great skills, and it brings kids closer together and makes all kids more comfortable with each other. It's really great to watch. This is the size of the class. This is a mixture of general ed and special ed students, and there's lots of reasons why sometimes can't self it too, and it's really wonderful to watch and have a great time. And it's something that we're really, really proud of the collective. And the last course is actually a course that all 8th graders take. And what we did was we shifted Mrs. Shine from 6th, 7th to 8th, from 7th to 8th. And she is teaching an 8th grade class that really has to do with finance, web literacy, coding. And so the students do a whole section on finance. They learn basic budgeting, they learn how the money system works, and then they also do a great section on coding. And right now they're working on HTML, which I had the pleasure of seeing today. It was pretty fascinating to watch students. Most students in the class, for the first time, understood that there was a script, a code behind all web pages. So I have a little slide. Turn that for 1 second to show you what I saw today. What I saw students in that class was the recipe or the HTML code for a web page. And as they were adding some here, they pushed refresh and the web page would change. And so about 20 of the 25 students in that class never knew that there was any kind of recipe kind of web page. So a lot of people don't realize that there's a source code behind every single web page that you see on the internet. So the students that I talked to today said, I never knew that there was any kind of recipe, but I'm really excited because now I know I can make web pages. So it opened up their minds to the idea that they can write code, write HTML, and actually contribute to this thing that they've been using for all these years. And they kind of thought it was magic. It's really interesting to watch them. So they change their notepad, and they keep going back and forth, and they just develop. They're really in the early stages. This doesn't have a lot of style yet. You know, it's kind of that newspaper. But Mrs. Shine is working with them in lots of stages to get to the place where they're doing style and layout, and color, and design, and it's just every single kid says they love it. So it's just really exciting. Yes, there's examples of the wall. Thank you for mentioning. So I just wanted to go back and just show you some survey results. Okay, so in advanced art, we asked kids in all of these classes, and the survey just repeated. Are they happy with the course? 100% were happy who elected to take the courses. 80 to 85% managed well without the study hall. So that is still something I think they have to understand in their own time management. And I think that certainly tells you that the benefits of engaging in the course exceed the need for the study hall. We'll do an analysis later to see if the grades drop in any way, but I don't think they will because the students are so enthusiastic about all of this learning. And 100% in all courses would recommend these courses to friends. So there's one little blip in here. This is the Unified PE. 100% were extremely happy, 80% managing well, and 100% would recommend to a friend. It's a nice little. I love Unified PE. It's a great way to work with kids. Very fun at school working with kids with disabilities. This is back from our surveys. Our 3D design kit does the same thing. I even got some nice emails from parents about how they're very excited that the students are exposed to this in middle school. This is a really interesting little flip right here. Okay, importance of web design. So the importance of that section of the course, 50% of them, that and not important. Today, every single one of them is really, really important. So, you know, I really learned about when to serve it, not to serve it. That's the key result. I should have waited until the course was over. So that's where we are, and we're just excited and hope that we can expand this into some new areas next year. A counseling course, a specialized wellness course, another specialized teaching course that might have to do with teaching kids who want to be coaches, and some music consulting. Happy to take any questions, but I appreciate everyone's support there.
Any questions or comments? I'd like to say comment. I'd love to see one of the creations when they finish it. It's exciting, and it's. I was thinking of is how nice it is to see these electives, and they sort of feed into when they get up to high school, what they're going to be doing. So it's kind of a precursor to what we're doing in the high school. So it makes a lot of sense. Thank you for the work.
I think it's great. You know, we have so many theater programs for sports. Now you're having theater programs for a lot of other academics at the high school too that can open up the students' eyes to a lot of different avenues to pursue. The art is really interesting. And I'm so happy about the finance, personal finance component. Anybody else?
I'm going to read the motion.
Thank you.
So do you want me to read the motion?
Sure. Yeah. Can we have a motion to approve
that the Waterford Board of Education approves the addition of course offerings to the Grade 8 Unified Arts Curriculum, including 3D designs and creation, advanced art, unified physical education, and web literacy and finance as proposed.
Is there a second? Okay, Kevin? Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, now we're down to discussion and possible action regarding the Board of Education goals for 2015-16.
As you recall, last month we handed out a copy of the 14-15 goals, as well as the June 2015 update on those goals. So just looking for direction. Certainly, most, if not all, remain relevant. Certainly, the planning for strategic planning for next year certainly needs to occur.
Okay, anybody?
So they just done number 3 and number 5, which I think that we talked about whether we needed to look to replace the goals or continuing, and I would just like to see a little more enhancement on the third, and I appreciate all the feedback that we received and showing us just where we were, but I think if we continue to look at maybe at a regionalized and collaborative effort with mental health services as one, there are some programs out there that I think we should investigate just to see what's going on, particularly with the social and emotional intelligence programs that are out there that are very cost effective, and then maybe just more or less just exploring some more initiatives and opportunities in that area. If I may sort of just finish quickly. And then I had asked the superintendent if we could continue to keep coming back to these if there's more that we would like to offer as we go forward in the next meeting. But I believe it was on number 5, and I had put down I was pleased to see the presentation tonight with the summer program, but we've talked about it over the years. If there's more that we can do, and again, there are some neighboring, not that we're comparing, but that we look around, see what some of the schools are doing with these international programs to see if there isn't a way that we could really use what we've started here, what we have already, and continue to build on it. I know the program, Edgenuity, that we have currently, the online Chinese program, maybe use that as a baseline to try to encourage our students to do more with that program so that we could kind of get ready so if we ever do get to a part, and I know there's a lot to doing an international program, I think we should do this in degrees and have the Chinese students there first. But I'd just like to see us continue to make that a priority, to look at exploration of what we can do. I mean, the cultural awareness, the global opportunities that are out there. But linked to that, I haven't forgotten the world languages that we had said years ago that, and I'm not asking to put it in, we're looking at the budget and what we're doing, but just to have the knowledge of what would be our ideal world language program, what would be the transition and the what we would have to do to have a seamless transition through the middle school through to the high school. Just to have that knowledge, because we talked when we eliminated it years ago, part of the reasoning was that we wanted to improve it, perfect it, make it really a program that was beneficial to our world language department. So not saying that we're able to do that right now, but I'd like to begin sort of the study of what it means to have a good world language program in the district. And then hopefully, as we go through with the budget 1 year, we'll be able to really look at it. I also agreed with Craig, and put it down, that professional development, particularly with all that we're going through, we just talked tonight about the emphasis on the testing, to be sure that we're giving our teachers the adequate training and professional development that they need to really work well with all the demands that are put on them. So those were the areas within here. So it's really not adding anything new. I think as we go forward with our strategic plan, moving the district forward, we'll be able to really focus in on some of these goals that we're looking at tonight, but really to enhance those were my two that I thought should really be looked at. Anybody else?
I agree with Kathleen. I think the goals that we have are sufficient. We just need to be working on them, and I think that the strategic plan is key for us.
I agree.
And it was already mentioned tonight about bringing back the finance committee. A few years ago, we implemented that, and we seem to have let it sort of drop or meet infrequently at the very least.
Right.
So if we could bring that back, that would be great.
Okay. No, I agree. I think that's a great idea too. So is it the board's pleasure then to approve the goals for the 2015-16 as they're printed as we discussed?
Could I add one thing? As I said, as we look to explore more and more on collaboration and regionalization within the district in areas, I think special ed is one that, and I've spoken to our superintendent, that just to explore, not necessarily to move, but just to see how other districts are looking at the out-of-district costs with special ed. There are some programs out there, just to know what they are, what they're doing, and just have an idea. And I would include in that not only the special ed, but the tech ed piece too. And I know I spoke with Andre earlier that Waterford High School, as you remember, was first in the state. They've made tremendous gains in the food and nutrition, culinary and nutrition, and it's really a credit to what's going on there, and there might be more opportunities out there, and I just think we ought to keep looking at what we can do regionally to continue to build, but not to have the cost. So it's kind of a balance of looking to continuously be improving, but not to add extra burden on the budget. But just throw that out. You can add that to one of the goals, just more looking at collaboration, what we can do.
Okay, so do we want to add that to here?
Yeah, we could add a goal, something around it. I could draft more formal language, but continue to explore opportunities for regionalization and collaboration in the region and with other districts.
Have the other superintendents contacted you about regionalization? Because we did that several years ago, and we met, but nothing really came of it.
Well, if I may, Jody and I attended. At one point, we were all concerned about an alternative school, and some of that went along with students that were expelled or suspended or had different needs, but we never really moved too much in the area because it's so cost prohibitive to look. But if there's something out there that regionally that can do some of the accommodation, it's worth at least investigating to see what is there.
So do you want us to wait until our next meeting then to approve the goals, or do you want us to approve them now?
It's entirely up to you. If you want me to draft some more, firm this up a little bit and bring it back in November, I'm happy to do so.
How does everybody feel about that?
I would like that. If it's good.
Bring it back in November.
Thank you.
Is that all right with everyone?
Fine-tuning that.
Sure, okay. Okay, now. Okay, we need a motion to go into executive discussion for the purpose of discussion regarding a legal matter, collective bargaining update, and discussion regarding, we're going to discuss the evaluation, we're going to say that.
Very good.
Okay.
That's very briefly,
Okay.
I promise.
All right, and then we're going to invite Craig in on the collective bargaining update. Okay, I have a motion.
So moved.
Kathleen?
So who are we inviting?
Craig.
And
Oh, sorry. You're here first. Craig and Tom.
We don't want to lose you.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The motion carries. Thank you for coming, everybody.
How are you?